We're going to bring in our special guest, legal analyst, trial attorney Jamie White. Jamie, thank you so much for joining us. And I'm bringing you in. We're having some audio difficulties, which are beyond our control, have happened off and on. But it's a perfect opportunity. Tell me your thoughts as you're watching the state's expert, really, quite frankly, tearing apart the basis of the expert that the defense called.
Sure. It's a classic battle of the experts, Judge Ashley. We have two different people, and I think this is an important point. When we get into expert testimony, anybody that's ever tried cases, we hear these gentlemen and women who are expertise, and we don't dispute that they have a significant amount of knowledge, but it's important to remember that their opinions, their expert opinions, are subjective. When we do a drug test, subject to maybe chain of custody issues or some sort of defect in the testing mechanism itself, we don't dispute whether or not a certain amount of substance was found in a certain amount of blood. Here, we even hear the plaintiff's expert, we hear him talk about this is what he is. And I think it's important for viewers and more importantly, the jury to understand that these are still just opinions. So, it's extremely important. It's at the end of the day, the jury's going to believe one of them more than the other. I think the insanity defense is a huge stretch here based on the facts as I understand them. But at the end of the day, we have two different doctors posing two different opinions, and they can't both be right.
Right. So we know that the defense doctor is saying he couldn't know right from wrong because we know that this state doctor is saying, for the state rather, is saying, no, he was delusional, depressed, but he knew right from wrong. And now we know that the expert for the defense is sitting in court, as he's allowed to do, to listen to this testimony, and then he'll be called back to the stand. Is that typical in terms of trials and how the evidence is presented in your experience?
Very typical. It's almost malpractice to not have your expert, advise and review the testimony of other experts that may have contrary opinions. So nothing unusual here. I think we're going to hear him counteract some of these opinions that have been posited in this direct examination, and and he's going to maintain his stead. He's not going to concede his points. Ultimately, the jury is going to have to decide this not only based on the representations of the witnesses and how they presented themselves, but the credibility of the witnesses and their professional experience. When they were both introduced as experts, there was a certain litany of information that was presented to qualify them as an expert. That, their appearance on the stand, inconsistencies in their testimony, that is what the jury will rely on when deciding which expert to believe.
And this expert is very passionate as he's testifying. You're going to stay with us, Jamie. Audio issues seem to be repaired. Let's go back into the courtroom live.